Today on DNVR Buffs Live, Cliff Hill joins us to talk about the ever-growing IMG to CU pipeline and much, much more. Let's get it.
Buff Nation,
Let's go.
squad. Coming to you live from the Toyota Lounge, driven by your front range Toyota stores. It's DNVR Buffs Live. Today on the show, we will talk about the rules of being a college football fan.
Uh-oh.
An update on the spring game, potentially between Fran Brown and Syracuse. But we start today with Cliff Hill, recruiting advisor / agent to a lot of players coming out of IMG Academy, a budding pipeline for CU. Cliff, thanks for joining the show, man. How you doing today?
Yes, sir. Doing great, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
We appreciate you rocking the Buffs hat. You know, really leaning in. We like that.
I try. I actually wear it a lot. Everyone's always asking me if I'm a Colorado fan, so, which I am.
Let's go.
That looks good on you, Coach. Like we said, we appreciate you joining us. We talked, I think, back in January about quite a bit. But it's good to hear from you again and good to see you again. I want to start here. For the people who may not be familiar with you and what you do, we know that you do pretty much everything when it comes to helping elite high school football players around the country get to the next level, specifically guys coming from IMG Academy, specifically working with Colorado freshmen Alexander McPherson and London Merritt. Just tell the people a little bit about what role you play in the lives of these young men, those two in particular, and the rest of the guys that you kind of, represent.
So what I do with these guys, we look at the teams that are interested in them and the teams that they are interested in. And then we go through everything. We go through roster, who the coaches are, the program, how the kids are getting developed at those schools, the academics. We do it all. Obviously, NIL is a factor of it too, but we try to get the perfect fit to where they can find a place to play that they can really excel and that they like. And so the way that I do it, we narrow that down, and I never tell a kid where to go, ever. That's up to them because they're the ones that have to get up at 5:30 in the morning and go do these workouts and do all that. And I don't want to ever give anyone to blame, so I let them decide. But try to just go through it all, and then I try to get the schools all in about the same range when it comes to NIL, and then they can pick based on all the other factors I just talked about instead of just making it purely about money.
Obviously, through that process, with those two guys, specifically London and Alex, you landed on Colorado. And they landed on Colorado. And I'm curious just kind of what went into that thought process, what went into, the evaluation of Colorado from your standpoint, and why you all came to the conclusion that that was a great landing spot for those guys.
So we visited numerous times. We were out there multiple times in October and November. And one thing that we did that I thought worked particularly well, we came out like for a midweek, and there was practice going on. The kids were in school, and we went to all the practices. We went to all the coaches' meetings. Just basically, they were like a part of the team. So that way they could really see what it would be like when they got there. And then while we sat through these coaches' meetings and did all this stuff, we were able to kind of feel what that would be like. And then as we got home and would get back to the room in the evening or at the hotel, we would sit and go through what that day was like, what they liked, didn't like, and basically if they could see themselves going there. And so I thought that was really good. But what we looked at, like, I really, really like Rob Livingston. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I'm around a lot of coaches, and Coach Livingston feels like a future head coach. I think some of them just give off that vibe and confidence and in control. And I got to see a lot of what he was doing with the defense and how he ran his defense. And I felt like those guys fit in very well. And I had another kid with me too, and I actually thought he fit in pretty well with it as well. But just seeing what Rob was able to do last year, I was very impressed by. And so, since all three of the guys I had out there were defensive guys, I was very comfortable with him. And then I really like Coach Dancy. I was sad to see him go. I thought he was a great coach. And I really like Coach Hart, fantastic guy too. But when Dancy left, we're not super happy with that, but we do actually really like Coach Hilo. I think he's a good coach. Talked to him for a while the other day, and he's very easy to talk to, and he's actually from right here where I live. So that's convenient, but we just put all those things in place and we try to go and get a real feel for it and shut out what everybody is trying to persuade and just try to make the very best decisions possible.
I love that. To go along with that, Cliff, you didn't mention the Gold Jackets on this coaching staff. You added another one this offseason in Marshall Falk. I'm just curious, when it comes to those recruits and the guys that you have to deal with, with what you do, how far does that go, knowing that there's 3 Gold Jackets on this staff? There's tons of guys who have been there and done that, made it to the NFL, played multiple years. How far does that go with those recruits?
Well, so I'll say this. When we're sitting in the defensive line room watching them prepare, I think it was for I can't remember who they were playing the next week, but when I'm looking at the guy beside of me and it's Warren Sapp, I feel pretty comfortable that they know what's going on in that room. So it did make a difference. And one thing that you try to look at, and it's really hard to make a fair evaluation because you don't know what's going to happen with the 17-year-old kid. But these kids, I'm telling you, are phenomenal players, and they will have the ability, if they do the right things, to get to the NFL. So one thing that we were looking at is what does that development piece look like, and what does that network look like? Well, like you said, half the coaching staff from the NFL. So we felt good about that part of it for sure.
Obviously, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders is kind of the head of the snake. You told me that whenever you're in Boulder, you're in direct communication with Coach Prime. You sat down and talked to him, multiple times for hours at a time. What were those conversations like? And what were you able to kind of glean from him? Talking and chopping up with him.
So, I think he is as sincerely connected to your program as any coach in America. And as we all know, he's got every option that he could want. But I do feel that he is driven, and he really does love it there. Like everything that he said to us, I didn't doubt that he loved it there. I was nervous that he may leave, but at the same time, he did everything that he could to convince us that he was not going to, because I asked him that, and he was very forthcoming with it and gave me about a 10-minute long answer that made us feel comfortable that he was not going anywhere. So I think he gives off a different vibe than most people you'll ever be around in your life. And so when he's around, there's this kind of odd feeling that everything's going to be all right. So, that obviously, when you have someone like him as your head coach, you're going to bring in a lot of great players. And I think with the coaching staff that you have in place, they'll get the most out of them.
Just to follow up on that, I think at the beginning you said that he's as genuinely connected to the program as anyone in the country. Can you just expand on kind of what you mean by that, and maybe an example, not naming names, but what it would feel like the other way?
So what you hear in the media and see in the media, it's like, you know, you kind of watch him and it was kind of presented like he'll be there. If he does well, he'll move on, whatever. But it doesn't have that feeling at all. He feels like he really wants to build something. And I think he found a spot that had a whole lot of trust in him and kind of gave him the freedom to go get the coaches he wanted and the people he wanted to surround himself by. And I know that meant a lot to him. And I think he is trying to do his very best job. And you never know what the future is going to hold, but it doesn't feel like one of those things to where it's a temporary situation. Now, I don't know what the future may be, but he does a very good job of selling it. And he loves he talks about he loves Boulder, he loves the mountains. He just gave us a real solid feeling that he's going to be there and kind of, showed us the things to like. And then when you look at him on the visits, it's an easy place to sell.
I want to ask you more about those visits, Cliff. I mean, Colorado, when it comes to transfers, at least, they have a crazy conversion rate at getting guys to come and visit and then end up committing. With high school, it's usually more of a process. Guys, they'll come in the summer before their senior season and all that. They tend to take a lot more time. But even last year, we had a massive visit weekend with Julian Lewis, and was it 5 of the 7 guys who were on that visit ended up committing?
Actually, 6 of the 7 committed.
That's true.
5
One
of the
of
7
them
stayed. Yeah.
That's true. Can you just talk us through what those visits are like? What do you experience, and how are they different than other schools?
Yeah. So first off, by name, Darius Box does a fantastic job, and he is very transparent. I actually talk to Coach Box all the time. Great guy. And their visits are great, and especially the game day visits. But they do as good of a job on recruiting as anybody in the country. And you don't feel like that they're leaving anything out. And what the kids really look for is that they're wanted. And what the parents are really looking for is, I'm turning my child over to these people. Are they going to take care of them? So even though that's just a snapshot into the next 3 or 4 years, all that is very comfortable. And the visits are great. And you don't know who you're going to run into, So we've been on visits to where, I've got to talk with Terrell Owens and John Wall and just tons of different people, because you don't know who's going to be there and be around. And they're all very, very relaxed. It goes back to, like I said, Coach Prime has a way of almost putting an entire room at ease, and just to listen to what he's going to say. So, and that's in the meetings. Like, I go to a lot of meetings, and when he's talking to these kids, he has their full attention. Like, all eyes are on him. The things he's saying, they're really taking in. So the reason I do this is to try to get these guys through this process and the best way possible, hopefully to get them to the league. It's their job to control their ceiling. It's my job to control their basement. So what I do, I get them in, I get them on budgets. I make sure that their money is invested with a really reputable place to where they can track it online all the time through major houses. Their taxes are done, all that stuff, so that they can just concentrate on academics and football. And although I want, you guys to win a national championship or to win a big bowl game, or I don't want their best memory is that they won some games in the college playoff. I want them to come out of this thing with the degree and money that they have saved through this process. And so when I see the way that he loves his kids and that he's trying to take care of them, that goes along with what I'm trying to do. And I think that formed a lot of the connection.
Love it.
That's awesome stuff. Do we got to take a break?
We do have to take a break. We'll ask Cliff about Alexander McPherson, London Merritt. And more about that IMG pipeline here in just a second on the other side of this break. Shout out to our friends over at Elevations Credit Union. Go put your money in a credit union. Don't go to a bank. They're going to take care of you. They're going to treat you like a person, not a number in their system. And Elevations Credit Union is also invested in the success of CU student athletes through NIL. They'll donate 2 cents per swipe to CU students through NIL every time that you swipe your card. You also get up to 3% cash back on CU tickets and merch with select CU merchants. 2% cash back on restaurants, gas, streaming, and phone plans. 1% cash back on daily spending. And then free popcorn at home football and basketball games.
Sheesh.
What else do you need?
Dang.
Hit them up. Go Buffs with the Go Buffs Visa Signature Rewards Card, the only official credit card of CU Athletics, only at Elevations Credit Union. Visit buffscreditcard.com to apply and see full card benefits and details.
And shout out to the homies over at UC Health. The DNVR Buffs Show is brought to you by UC Health, the official healthcare partner of the Colorado Buffaloes. Hey, y'all, summer almost here. It's almost time to get in mode.
It is time.
You're right. It is time to get in mode. Whether you're in the gym or trying to get your mentals right or just getting your steps in every day, like my boy RK. What's his streak up to now, bro?
57.
57 straight days of getting all those steps in. Y'all tap in again at UC Health. This is what we do. Learn more about living like there is a tomorrow. Go to uchealth.org for more info. UC Health, live extraordinary.
All right, back with Cliff Hill, advisor for multiple IMG recruits. We got 2 big-time ones right now in Alexander McPherson and London Merritt, who have seemingly already made an impact with the football program this spring. Cliff, just what can you tell us about those guys, how they fit into this program, how their first couple weeks of spring football have gone so far?
So they're loving it, and they're having a great time. I talked to them both yesterday. They love the campus. They're loving practice. They are currently right now running with the 2s, which is about where I thought they would be. But these guys are, and I told Scott, back I was like, these guys are going to play, and they're going to play, and their development from IMG is awesome. And if you look at most of my kids, they're IMG kids. And the reason is, and I want to give full credit, Don Zalotti at IMG runs that program better than most colleges are ran. And that's a fact. And the way that he oversees the development of these kids and what they're surrounded by is unbelievable. It's really, if you haven't been there on that campus, you should go to that campus and have Don take you around and show you what he does with these kids. It is really better than a lot of the college campuses I'm on. So they know football, for one, and their training and everything they do is just like they're already at college. And I have this conversation with a lot of kids. Yesterday, I talked to Mike Carroll, too, and I don't know if you guys know who he is.
Yep.
He looked at Colorado pretty serious towards the end. He's at Alabama. And what happens, these kids go into practice at their college, and it's just different color uniforms. The speed is very close to the same and all this stuff, so they can go good. There's some transitional things, like learning that you have to go 100% every single play all the time, but that comes really quick. But they're already pushing. They're already at 2s. They're using them both currently, from what I was told, on the edges. So, they're going to do well. Like, London is very versatile and strong, and Alexander is one of those kids. He just finds a way. Like, he tied for the all-time sack leader at IMG. I mean, that is a huge thing. So they will be impact players. I guarantee you that.
Love it.
I want to talk a little bit more about Alex, Coach. I remember when we talked, a couple of months ago, you were like, Alex reached out to you. He called you to see if you would help him, and you said you watched just 2 plays of his film and immediately called him back like, yeah, let's get rolling on something. What was it that you saw right away in Alex that you think is going to translate to the next level and make him a really, impactful player right away?
So I saw his get off. I saw how powerful he was, and I saw how he never gives up on a play. So he's one of those guys that he, even if he doesn't get through at the beginning, he would be the guy that's going to get the coverage sack because he's never going to quit. If that play goes 6.5 seconds, he's going to be
Yeah.
the guy on the ball because until the whistle blows, he's not stopping. He's strong. He's got good technique. He plays inside. He plays outside. But his will to do good, and he's not the type of kid that's ever a look at me type kid. He's just going to go out there and go to work. But when I saw his strength and power and tenacity, I knew. I was like, well, this kid is just quiet, or he would be like rated even a lot higher than he is.
Yeah.
So 2 plays in, I was like, yeah. And he was committed somewhere else at the time, and I just felt like I'd already been to Colorado a couple times, and I knew what the room was there, and I knew that he could be impactful early. And I talked to him and his dad about it, and they were basically gave me the green light, and 2 weeks later it was done.
Love that.
Love that. On the same line of thinking, as to what makes these guys special, what makes them tick, what would you say about London in that regard?
So London he's really big on his technique. He is also very powerful, very fast. He's a guy that he's gonna watch and study and figure out how to beat you, and then he's gonna use that against you. He's gonna know based on what you do what technique he's going to use, and he's got 3 or 4 just fantastic, different techniques that he'll use. And like I called him 2 or 3 days, and I didn't get a call back. And then when he called me back, I'm like, "Yo, you all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, sorry, I was getting extra work in." And I checked with his roommate, who is Alexander, and he was like, "Yeah, he's out there getting the extra work in." So these boys are doing what Colorado asks them to do, and they're working themselves too, because they want to prove how good they are. Jordan Seaton's another IMG kid. Like, that's their standard. So they want to show that they're the next guys. And then, we've got other guys already that we're looking at Colorado with. So it's a good place. You can tell that everything is for a purpose that they're doing out there. And on a personal note, I went to Marshall, and they just brought in Byron Leftwich, which I
Right.
love. So that helps as well. But no, they really have it rolling. And from the reports I've got from practice, from not my guys but other guys, Juju's coming along great too. And I was able to go watch him play a high school game in the playoffs with London and his dad, and he's going to be a great player for Colorado. The way he distributes the ball and how quick he is, he's going to do a really good job.
Love
Thanks.
that. I want to go back to the night that Alex and London committed. They all go on nightcap. I think we had 4 commitments that night.
Yeah.
Half of them were your guys, Alex and London. Just what was that like? Kind of getting that put together. What was their emotions through that whole thing? Because it was exciting for us. I could only imagine what it was like for them.
So it was almost an out of body experience for those guys. That was their, first big interview. I thought they did fantastic.
They did.
Definitely.
And I give all the credit to getting that set up with Colorado. I think specifically Reggie Calhoun worked on that, so he does a great job. They loved it, and I think it set the tone for them that if you put in the hard work and do what you're supposed to, we are networked as good as anybody in the country, and everyone will know about it.
Period.
Love it.
That's awesome stuff. You mentioned near the end of your previous answer, Coach, about some of the other guys that you represent and whatnot that are looking at Colorado. One of them is a guy that I'm really excited about. I love his game, and that's Jay Cruel. Obviously,
Yes.
He recently put Colorado in his top 12, which is filled with a bunch of Power 4 elite programs. What can you tell us about Jake, his game, and what he might be intrigued in by in Colorado?
So Have you ever got to watch any of Jake's film?
Oh, hell yes.
So he's so fast,
Yes.
and he is one of these guys that he lives and breathes football 24 hours a day. Like, I took him down to the Under Armour camp in Miami, and he's won so many MVPs and things at these camps. He's like a celebrity showing up there. And they do a special presentation to him so that they can give the MVP to somebody else for once. But when he goes against these guys, there was multiple reps down there. So you know how the one-on-ones go at these camps, right? So Jake stands there and he'll watch and see what people are doing. And then when he gets up and goes against them, I saw 2 reps where they didn't even get a hand on him. So, like, he's so fast and he's so methodical. He's a thinker, and he knows what he's going to do with you, and his foot and hand speed is tremendous. So he's going to be a really good one. He'll be a 5-star DN before the end of the recruiting cycle.
This will be the last one for me. It's kind of a big picture thought, and it goes actually to a conversation we had with Reggie Calhoun. And it was about the idea of the NIL era in college football being the wild, wild west. And he kind of pushed back on that pretty heavily. He's like, I don't think it is the wild, wild west. I think people outside think it is. So we've heard it from the team side. From your perspective, is the NIL era the wild, wild west?
So when you first start doing it, yes. But once you learn the rules to it and how everything works, it's not. The people that are calling it the Wild West just don't necessarily understand how everything is going.
That's what Reggie said.
So,
Word for word what Reggie said.
well, it's true. And so I took just trying to get all the information I can. I got credentialed for NIL. And I'm not going to say what class, and it's supposed to be the best one, but there was really nothing in that class that I could use when it came to what is really happening. It does need, there's a couple of things I would love to see. Like, I would love to see standardized contracts more so, because like if I deal with 20 different schools in a cycle, it's dealing with 20 different businesses. So I would like to see that. I would like to see them get control of the transfer portal. Like, that's the first big step in getting this thing worked out, is maybe having, once a year when you can do transfer portal. Like, I do feel bad for these coaches that are trying to, this is a hard thing they're doing, man. So they're trying to figure out how to win ball games, and multiple times a year they could lose half their team. So, and it does also affect the way that they can coach the kids. So I would like to see them get control of the transfer portal window and do more standardized contracts, so that when one school tells you something, it's like apples to apples comparing it to another school.
Love it.
So, but it's not as crazy as it comes out to be once you start to figure everything out.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, like Coach Cliff do, it ain't too hard. You'll figure it out. That's what's up, Coach. Hey, we appreciate you taking the time, like we said, to chop it up with us. This was super insightful. We appreciate you. Y'all go follow Coach Cliff on Twitter at Coach Cliff904. Coach, we appreciate you. We'll talk real soon.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
There he goes, Cliff Hill. Pretty insightful.
Very much so.
Yeah, I should have had a notepad just to write down all the things that I wanted to circle back to.
For real.
But I think the two that stood out to me the most, which are related, we'll get to on the other side of this break.
Yes, sir.
I saw that look in your eye.
I'm glad you guys are finally recognizing that look. It only took over a year. Shout out Bet365, my favorite book to bet on, especially when it comes to the NFL. But with NBA and NHL season, playoff season coming up here soon, make sure you get in. Sign up with the code DNVR365. Deposit $10, place a bet of $5 or more. You'll get $150 in bonus bets, regardless if your bet wins or loses. I love Bet365 because of the early money line payouts. Hockey, it's 3 goals.
Okay.
I think 3 or 4. And then basketball, it was 15 points, right? For college at least.
Yeah, that was huge. It's an instant payout.
It is, yeah.
Like,
you don't even.
Like, oh, you won the bet. It's like, no, the money is in your account.
Yeah, even if your team loses, that money still comes through.
Yep.
How's the underdog? Do we have a summary?
Still bad.
Need a big weekend.
Yeah. we didn't get the Cinderella,
right?
Yep.
And that screwed us.
Yeah.
Do we have big dogs for this weekend though? Like,
I don't
do you see on the
think
money
so.
line?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
We're gonna
We'll
need to
find
stack up like plus 115s.
Yeah.
It's a mountain to climb. It
It
sounds
is
like.
certainly a mountain.
Anyways, you can use those bonus bets on damn near anything at Bet365. Spread, totals, player props, futures, SGPs, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
You know where would be an elite place to hang out today, given this weather?
The Breck
Breck Brew.
Farmhouse.
The farmhouse, bro. I don't know if you guys have been there, but they're back. I know you guys have been there, but you guys, the back patio there is top notch in terms of place to hang out and have a beer, get some smoked wings served to you.
Fire food there.
I think they have like a smoked meatloaf too that goes
Oh, the
crazy.
meatloaf is insane there. Yeah.
Oh, here we go, Scotty. We'll get back to that. There's so much good food, so many good vibes, and you can get all of their beers on tap there. It's over just off of Santa Fe. It's a great place to hang out. But if you're not able to make it to the farmhouse, it's still an unbelievable day to just drink you a Breck brew. Some of the best craft brews out there. And they've been supporting DNVR since before it was even called DNVR, which is really, really special to me. So shout out to our friends over at Breck Brew. And even if you don't live in Colorado, you can go check out the beer locator at breckbrew.com to find a brew near you. All right. Takeaway 1.
Okay.
He said the kids want to feel wanted. Mm-hmm. The parents want to know that their kids are taken care of.
Yeah.
We've heard Coach Prime talk a lot about that second part,
Right.
which is they're turning over their babies to me.
Yeah.
I got to show them that they're going to eat well, they're going to sleep in a good, safe place, and that we're going to take care of them and give them a man when they come back out of here. Yeah. The other one, though, is I think an underrated skill of Coach Prime's. And it's making people feel important, making people feel wanted, making people feel desired.
And comfortable too.
And comfortable, and that one is important too. But look at Marshall Falk, Warren Sapp, these guys that, Robert Livingston even. These guys who have come here to join this coaching staff. It's because Coach Prime calls them up and says, I need you.
Right.
When someone of that stature and that importance, a person who most people would think doesn't need anything or anyone, tells you, I need you, it just hits different. Mm-hmm. And so when he mentioned that part of the players want to feel wanted, I just know, like, imagine the Jordan Seaton recruitment. Coach Prime is sitting in a room with Jordan, and he's just like, we need you.
Yeah.
We've got a top 5 pick at quarterback. We can't protect him. I need you to come here and do that for me. Can you do that for me? How do you say no to that?
For sure.
And so I thought that was a really interesting part that I just hadn't thought of in the recruiting process of it. I think Coach Prime is really good at showing people why they are needed.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big takeaway for me too. Another one was just the fact Coach Cliff talking about him asking Coach Prime straight up, "Are you staying here? Mm-hmm. Are you in here for the long haul?" And him being thoroughly convinced, like a guy like Coach Cliff Hill is not going to send his babies, his Alexander McPherson and London Mayer, to a school that he even thinks one iota the head coach might leave.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That tells me that, Coach Prime was not only convincing, but he was telling the truth, that he loves it here in Colorado, that you can trust sending your babies here to me. They will be in good hands, and I will be here to continue to look over them.
And we've seen that. I mean, multiple people have said that about Coach Prime too, right?
Yeah.
I think Zane DeSouza, when he had an interview talking about his commitment, he basically said the same thing. He straight up asked him, are you going to be here? Coach Prime gave him all the reasons why it's easier for him to transfer than it would be for him to leave. I'm sure this is like the same thing Coach Prime talks about, he has these conversations with Warren Sapp, Marshall Falk. Like, why would I come coach with you if you're just going to be gone in 1 or 2 years? And that probably comes up. Julian Lewis. I mean, do you
Right.
think Julian's here? If Coach Prime didn't say these things that he told Alex in London to Julian?
Nope.
Yeah.
So, look, again, we've said this so many times too. Just listen to the man. Honestly, just listen to the man.
The other one to me, and I just liked the way that Cliff said it because it's something that we've all felt, is Coach Prime has this way of making everyone feel like everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Calming everyone down. And I can't tell you how strong that feeling has been in me since the day that Coach Prime became the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we've talked about it in different lights. Like I always say, like, he's just a winner. He's going to win.
Yeah.
But it's that same thing. It's just like, he's got this. Like, if anyone's got this, he's got this. And it's just such a great, and I don't think there's very many other coaches who could say that.
For sure.
I'm sure that the Nick Sabans of the world, everyone felt that way too. Like,
Yeah.
if something's wrong with this team, he's going to figure it out and fix it. But it's a beautiful thing to have. And if you've ever experienced it in other walks of life, when you just meet someone and you're just like, this can't go wrong when they're around.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Another takeaway that stood out to me too is Coach Cliff telling us that London McPherson and London Merritt running with the twos.
Yep.
Running with the twos and that edge group on defensively. And obviously we're still early in spring. I think that might be a little bit of a byproduct of some guys being injured.
For sure.
Obviously Samuel Kalola and Keaton Wade not participating, but regardless, Coach Cliff sees them as guys who could contribute right away, and all those guys need is an opportunity.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Whether that comes by injury or just them being the best guy in the room, all they need is an opportunity, and they're getting it currently, early on, when they should still be seniors in high school. They're getting valuable reps right now with the two deep and whatnot. So that was interesting as well to hear from Coach.
Yeah, man, great stuff. Cliff also made it sound like this IMG pipeline. We've said it before.
Yeah.
It really does feel like it's just getting started.
Absolutely.
Jake Cruel, who you mentioned, but the Jordan Seaton effect. And I guess this is something I wish I would have asked him, but Jordan Seaton, I think, really truly changed the trajectory of this program, like single-handedly with his commitment. And just because of that IMG commitment, but also like the top high school like recruits, like
Right.
same thing with Julian. If Jordan doesn't come here, do you think Julian ends up here? Like, I don't know. So it's a lot of those guys, and we'll see what happens in the near future here. But Colorado recruiting is it's just constantly going up, and it's insanely impressive to see.
Yeah, and the other part of it is the Jordan Seaton gift will only keep on giving.
Yep.
Because it was the first domino in the trenches being
Right.
demons at Colorado.
Yep.
And
Trench babies.
when Jordan Seaton goes out there this year and is a first-team All-American, there's going to be offensive linemen who say, well, if he can do it there, I can do it there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then, you follow it up with Chauncey Gooden, and he keeps the ball rolling. And, you start doing it on the defensive line with like a Christian Hudson. And, it's just the dominoes keep on falling. And the way you're going to win a national championship at Colorado is in the trenches.
Yep.
And not just at Colorado, anywhere.
Right.
For sure.
That's the biggest difference between the top of the SEC and the top of the Big 12 is going to be that. And if Coach Prime can get the Jordan Seatons of the world and start stacking Jordan Seatons across both lines,
Yep.
that's how you win a national championship.
Literally, that was the blueprint for Alabama and Georgia.
Yes.
Get the best offensive, defensive linemen, keep stacking them, and just go win football games.
One more thing, a name that Coach brought up that he wasn't asked about, but we understand why. Robert Livingston.
Yeah, of course.
And that was a name that he brought up our last conversation back in January. Wasn't asking about Coach Rob, but he brought him up, and he said, Coach Livingston is unbelievable. He's a phenomenal X's and O's coach. He told me in January. He's fantastic, laid back, smart, and knows how to operate. And he told us today that that's a future head coach. And that's something we heard from Domita Pecco, you know what I'm saying, recently. That's
Coach Prime
Prime himself. That's the
Yeah.
future head coach right now. Like, Colorado has one of the best coordinators in all of college football.
In all of football, it may sound
And all of football, potentially.
Yeah.
That is massive. That can be understated.
One of those people, too, though, when you just talk to him, you're like, man, I'd love to play for this guy.
No doubt.
Or if you see him coaching, you're like, man, I'd love to play for that guy.
Yep.
And a lot of times that means like players coach. To me, he's even like a different level of that where it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes players coach feels like they're
A
not.
slight sometimes.
Yeah, or like they won't discipline if they need to.
Right. They're they'll just let the players kind of do whatever they want. Type of
Yeah.
thing.
To me, it's like going to celebrate with you literally
Yeah.
when you have big
plan your
accomplishments.
celebration.
But he is not going to mess around when you
Right.
did it wrong.
Right. Yeah, that was great from Cliff.
Awesome stuff.
Shout out to him for popping on the show. Some news on the spring game. Fran Brown spoke to Pete Nakos at On 3. The headline of this, Colorado-Syracuse expecting NCAA decision on spring game end of this week. So we had that meeting we talked about earlier this week. It was like April 10th or something that the rules committee is meeting, but it sounds like this is getting pushed through a lot quicker than initially thought. Fran talked a lot about his relationship with Coach Prime going back to 2018 when he was recruiting Shiloh Sanders to Baylor, basically. And he said from there, his and Coach Prime's relationship really just kicked off then, talking about faith and all that, talking about the game. He's obviously a DB coach. Anyways, with the spring game, Fran Brown said, I'm just waiting on the NCAA to come back to allow us to do this. This could be huge for college football. They should be getting back to us by the end of this week. As soon as they asked for it, we gave it to them within the next hour. Boom, boom, boom. We should get news back in the next 2 days. This will be great for college football. We need this.
Set the odds on this happening.
I think it's plus money, yeah.
150 though?
Plus 150, it goes down.
Yeah.
I would bet heavily on the minus 200 on the other side.
Really?
Yeah.
Just the time constraints?
No, I just think the NCAA is going to be like, well, no one else is going to be able to do it. Only you guys get to do it, and that's not fair.
I can see that happening.
I could
too.
see that, but someone's got to be the first.
Or they're going to say, well, if we allow this, then we're going to get flooded with paperwork this week from every school in the country trying to figure out how they're going to do it with, and we don't have enough time to go through it all. That's just my feeling. The NCAA sucks. Hopefully, someone with logic says, like, hey, this was their idea.
Yeah.
They get
For
to
sure.
do it, and we'll give everyone else, 1 day to figure it out.
Facts. If they did the legwork and did all the planning, and it makes sense logistically, the NCAA would just be in the way. You know, if they say no, that's all they would be doing.
That's
It would be-
all they're good for. anyways.
It will be crazy if this goes down just because Coach Prime said it out loud.
Yeah. And Fran Brown sent a tweet.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully by the end of the week. Let's talk about the rules of being a college football fan.
Okay.
This
There are
was-
rules to that?
Apparently so. This was a popular tweet on Twitter, though. Originally, someone said, I think it's weird to be a fan of a college you did not attend. Then this random guy, Jacob Baylor Bear, retweets it with the rules of being a college football fan. And it went crazy. 1, attend the college. 2, parents attended the college. 3, you live within 30 minutes of university and regularly engage with folks from campus.
This is an either-or situation, right? Now you got to have all three.
Yes.
He then says, no, you can't be an Alabama fan from California. That should be criminalized. Thoughts?
Just one of the dumbest things I've seen in a while.
For sure.
I don't understand where this comes from because usually you wouldn't hear anyone complain about a Steelers fan from California.
Right.
But for some reason, the colleges change it because it's like you could have attended the college, you couldn't attend the Steelers. At the same time, though, I just don't understand. This is all about just entertainment and fun.
Right.
You should have a reason. That's about it. If your reason is like, when I was a kid, I liked the colors, I can't really hate you because you've been rocking with it for that time. Right. If your reason is, I've been following Coach Prime no matter where he goes, and now he's at Colorado, and I'm going to cheer for that team, cool. Like,
Right.
you're on board. You had to experience Buff shit. You were there for the Stanford game. It's not all easy. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. You rode through that with me. I think that when I was a kid, I would have signed off on this. I would have been like, yeah, the rule, blah, blah, blah. And then I just like grew up and started meeting real people and having real life experiences and realizing that nothing fits in the stupid little box that you want to try to fit things into.
I mean, being an adult and trying to police other people's fandom is just weird in itself, in my opinion. And I agree with a lot of what you said, RK. Like, I mean, me in particular, like, growing up in Chicago, and I've had this conversation with people, like, we don't really have like a central college sports team. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, we have DePaul and, you know, Northwestern, which
Yeah,
is in Evanston, and like the
these
University
rules-
of Illinois is in Champaign, which is like an hour and a half south of Chicago. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we don't really have like a central, college team to root for. So like I grew up a Wisconsin football and basketball fan, like a Badger
Right.
fan, because they were close in proximity. My parents had took me because they knew I was a Wisconsin fan. They took me to like go see the Kohl Center and like, you know, Camp Randall Stadium as a kid, and that kind of furthered my love for the Badgers. And obviously that kind of wore off over time as I just kind of more stuck to my roots as a
Right.
Chicago sports fan. But like, it is what you like, who you like. And again, it's sport. If you have a reason, that's good enough for me. This is sports at the end of the day. And like I said at the top, if you're trying to police, why do you like my team? You're not even from here. That's just weird, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the chat has dealt with this too, because if there's one
Right.
fan base who's been picked on for this
Right.
the most over the last 2 years, it's those who are Colorado fans.
For sure.
Because of what you mentioned. Like, there's just so many Coach Prime fans out there that just follow him when whatever he does. You know, he picked here, and now all of a sudden Colorado's got all these fans. If these rules applied, to Scotty's point, Northwestern would have like one of the biggest fan bases in the country.
Yeah.
St. John's would be like a national
Right.
power. No one would root for Alabama. No one would root for, you know, schools like Oregon. You know, all this stuff.
I had somebody ask me recently where St. John's is. And I'm like, it's literally in New York. But
Yeah,
I don't
I
blame
just
you for
learned
not
that.
knowing
I
that.
might have asked you that,
It might have been
honestly.
you. But like, I don't blame you for not knowing that.
Yeah. It's a silly thing to try to police. And I've learned that it's actually really cool to find out all of the different stories of how people found their team. And I can speak to this because I fit all of those rules, you know, like all of my teams are Colorado. I don't like any other teams. I went to CU. I lived within 30 minutes
Your parents
of CU.
went, right?
Yeah, exactly. My parents went to CU. So I check all the boxes, and I've realized that, well, it's cool in its own right. My story is actually the most boring one. You start to meet people, and they're like, oh, when I was 10, my dad was watching football, and it was the Miracle at Michigan. And ever since then, I just decided, like, that's my team, and I just rode with it forever. Like, that's a cool story. It's like,
Right.
I was road tripping across America, and I ended up in Boulder on a game day Saturday, and I said, screw it,
Fire.
I'm going to the game. And now I'm a fan. Like, those stories to me are actually really, really cool. I love hearing all of the different ones. You can learn something new at every tailgate
Sure.
and hear a cool news story. So I'm very against gatekeeping this.
You got people re-crashing out over the Stanford game. I've seen like at least 2 comments about it.
I thought
That's
we
the
let
thing,
go
though.
of
It's
that.
like it'd be one thing if Coach Prime got here, we went undefeated, won the national
Right.
championship. I'm like, you guys don't know what it was
Right,
like.
right.
They do. Everyone knows what it was like.
Right. No, I mean, to that point, that's like where I grew up. That's
Yeah.
all it is. That's how people pick their call. It's like, oh, I played with Clemson in NCAA 13, and Sammy Watkins was just so fun. So that just became my team. And it's like they're wearing Clemson orange the last 10 years. You know what I mean? It's like stories like that. I'm sure you got a lot of them too, being from Chicago, with how
Yeah.
that area and, you know, colleges, I guess, work or don't work around there. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's crazy how people gatekeep things like fandom when it's literally just like personal preference at the end of the day.
For sure. Sometimes I think it's like you were following the quote unquote rules and you got stuck with a shitty team. Right. So you're like mad that someone else just gave themselves the personal freedom of picking whoever they wanted. I feel that way. Like I could never change baseball teams. Like I'm stuck with the Rockies. But if someone else was like, I'm done with the Rockies, I'm going somewhere else, I would be like, that's fine. You just got to stay over there.
Right. Sure.
Definitely. Ain't no flip-flopping coming back. Can't do that.
All right. Let's get to the chat. To the Toyota chat we go.
I got something to say to the chat.
Yeah, the chat's testing you, bro. D Mills asked, what does Mr. Hill do? Scout, agent? I guess a little bit of both.
Kind of everything. Yeah.
Kind of
Both
an advisor / agent / recruiting. I don't know, analyst, something like that. Helps you out.
Advisor, yeah.
Advisor, that's the word I was looking for.
I'll
Thank
tell you exactly what he told me back in January. I asked him. He goes, I represent them. I negotiate their NIL contracts for them. I take them on the visits, and I sit down with them to figure out which schemes fit the kids the best. I just try to help them find the best fit that I can get them into, and it's not always about the money. He also mentioned that he had a couple kids this year who could have had more money at different schools, but we just went with whatever was the best fit. I wonder if one of those guys might have fit that bill.
Facts.
Probably did.
And I mean, Coach Prime preaches that all the time, but you can get $500,000 extra somewhere and end up rooting your NFL career because you you went to the wrong place.
Facts.
And I love that he mentioned we look at the roster.
Yeah.
Like that's just the type of stuff that a lot of kids probably aren't doing or weren't doing in the past.
No doubt.
Yeah.
We're just like, okay, like I like this coach, I like this school, I've always respected this, and it's just like there's nowhere on the roster for you to go and fit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Specifically about Alex, like he goes like obviously he was committed to Oklahoma State.
Right.
And Coach Cliff said he looked at the room, that edge room, that defensive line room was like, I can see Alex McPherson, getting in this lineup, this rotation early on, and I think that was a smart play.
Super chats we go.
Let me read this.
What is going on here?
I don't know. I mean, why y'all saying that? It's only this one, right? I think it's only this one. Super chat from the Cape Crusader. Appreciate you, Cape Crusader. He goes, finally get to catch the show live. Scotty, I rock with you. Do you really, though? But you're wrong on like 75% of your predictions. Let's stop there. Name me one.
That's what I was going to say.
Drop one right now, Cape Crusader, in the chat. What prediction I got wrong? I just want to hear one.
I'm sure you've gotten some wrong.
I'm sure I have too, but I just want to hear one. And if you can
I need way more than one.
I just want one. If you could give me one, Cape Crusader, I'd be like, you got me. You caught me.
I got one for you.
Oh. All right, I need two. Well, go ahead. Look at your one.
Travis Hunter won't win the Heisman.
Hands up in the air. Hands up in the air. You got me. You got me on that one for sure.
And that obviously wasn't because you didn't think he was capable. It
Exactly.
was because you didn't think that people were smart enough to give it to him.
Thank you for that context.
But if you sit up here and talk about sports all day, every day, you're going to be wrong about a lot. Now, if you're going to come and say he's wrong about 75%,
That's insane.
You're going to have to come with like 10.
Right. Especially during the off season when we literally have nothing to talk about but to kind of just
Make
crazy.
predictions.
bullshit and make predictions. Yes, exactly.
And the second part of that, I think, was he said that I said Travis was going to run a 4.3. That was a discussion I think we all three of us had, right? Was that like a buy or sell or something? I don't remember specifically having a conversation about what Travis is going to run at the combine.
Yeah, I don't either.
But either way,
Well, I remember us talking about it, but I don't.
I think we might have did all didn't we do an over under segment?
Probably.
All right.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah,
like, this is
it's-
something we just did earlier in the offseason to make content. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Hey,
Sue us.
let Travis run a 4.3 at Pro Day next week. I'm coming back to this.
What's up, Kev? He says, thank you, DNVR, for all of you to keep us up to date. Thank you, man.
Shout out, Kev.
Kev again says, I forgot. Asante Samuel, you were great. You were special, but your name will never, ever be in the same breath as Deion Sanders. Not even better than Darrell Revis. Bow to your master.
Wow.
Asante Samuel, he's just having a moment, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get them clicks.
He's going to get a fat payout from Twitter this week. I can tell you that.
Hell engagement.
Good corner.
Ryan says, always a great week to be a Buff, but RK's comment Monday about it being a particularly great week to be a Buff. When might we know about that?
I never said it would be a particularly great week to be a Buff. I said it would be a great week to be a Buff, and I stand by it.
When isn't it a great week to be a Buff? Stanford?
No, it's still a great week to be a Buff that week. Just a little harder to understand.
Fair enough.
But it is still going to be a great week to be a Buff.
Don Peasy says, excellent show by the DNVR crew. Travel will run a 4.3 to 4.4. Success in the 40-yard dash is highly dependent on acceleration more than stride. Facts. Hunter was top 2 in explosiveness acceleration, and he wasn't too. To go with that, he's also reached like crazy top speeds. The chase down against Colorado State, I think this last year, he got way up there.
Yeah, he did.
The TCU game 2 years ago, he took an angle to get Trey Sanders was his name, the running back.
Yeah.
Was that the play?
Yep.
And he must have hit 21, 22, something close to that. So
The Matthew Golden thing really just opened my eyes.
what about it?
Sometimes the fastest players don't look like the fastest players.
For sure.
Like,
Yeah.
everyone thought he was the third fastest wide receiver on Texas.
Yeah.
And he was the first fastest receiver on Texas.
Yep.
And so I almost just want to throw out 40-yard dashes entirely. The Restrepo thing, I'm just like, just watch him play.
I was just going to say, it all comes back to just watch the games.
Yes.
Watch the film.
Yes.
Everything else should be secondary.
Jimmy Horn Jr., I watched him delete angles.
Yeah, man.
Like very, very few players I've ever seen. I don't even remember what his 40 was. I don't care.
Yeah.
I know that guy's going to be one of the fastest guys on the field anytime he sets foot on it.
It's just, this is the part of the draft season that does get exhausting, because I think there is some value when it comes to those things, but people take them like law. Like it's like, oh, if he hit this number, he's gonna be this, when that's not the case at all. And it just goes back to like when I worked at SIS, my boss out there was a former scout, and he always talked about how after the season they'd always joke about how looking at the draft board in like the Saints room, they'd be like, take a picture of it, because this is as good as it's gonna get, because as soon as pro days and combines and everything starts moving the board around, it drifts away from football, when at the end of the day, we're looking for football players.
I actually love that as a process for an NFL team. Keep your board from right after the season when you're done watching film.
Yes.
On one side of the room. Then you can have a new board over here. But then at the end of it, you have to ask yourself why.
Right.
What happened to make us move this guy up or down?
For sure. I agree.
SN Services, that's one of the craziest comments I've seen in the chat ever.
Oh,
but
Lord.
it's the same thing with Will Campbell, the offensive lineman at LSU, right? With his arm length. He goes to the pro day today, and it's 33 inches, which was bigger or longer than what he tested or measured at the combine.
Right.
And he's supposedly falling because his arms are too short. When he said it today, he was on a press conference. He was like, I've been one of the best offensive linemen for the last 2 years of college football. Nobody has mentioned my arm length. And now that I'm done playing college football, now my arm length is a problem. When y'all have had this tape this whole time.
Came and started as a true freshman in the SEC, too.
And now they're worried about his arm length.
Yeah.
After you just watched him ball out and be dominant in the trenches
sure.
the last couple of years.
I mean, it's like when you have a wide open three, but you got too much time.
Yeah.
You start thinking about other shit, and then
exactly.
you miss it. That's what all these teams are doing. They have too much time between the end of the season and the draft to question whether or not they're right about something.
Exactly. And it makes me wonder, honestly, like if the draft wasn't in late April and was instead, say, early March, how different it would look if you cut out a lot of this garbage, really, that fuels the draft process and gets people talking, arm length, 40 time, all this stuff. You kind of just did away with it and just drafted football players after the Super Bowl. How much different would the draft look?
That'd be fire. Do it like first week of March, like right before the tourney starts.
Yeah.
Speaking of the draft process and things getting a little out of whack, I said this on the Bronco show today. And again, it's not because I don't like Cam Ward. It's just a thing that came to me while I was thinking today. 10 years from now, there's going to be a conversation. They're going to say, why did they take Cam Ward ahead of Shedeur Sanders? And the answer is going to be, well, he could throw the ball further. And they're like, wait, so he was better at throwing the deep ball? They're like, no, he just threw it further.
Yeah.
And like, that's why they took him over Shedeur, the guy who's going to the Hall of Fame? Yeah. That's what's going to happen. And again, that doesn't mean Cam's not going to be good. Shedeur's just going to be better, in my opinion.
I agree. Don Peasy again says, by the way, can't wait for this prime is leaving narrative to disappear. If he said he loves it, he loves it. He hasn't lied to us before. Why would he now? I wish more people thought like you, Don Peasy. I really do.
Shout out Peasy.
It's a hard place for coaches, though, because sometimes they do have to say things that are aside from the truth.
Sure. I
And
get
so,
it.
so now, no one trusts anything that anyone says. You know, they had to say that.
But it's like that gets to a certain point when it's like the coach is just literally making a decision that's best for them. Like if there's another opportunity that's, better for their family, closer to the home, gives you a pay raise, all this stuff, like that's just different than, making a decision about this program who you still may love and like to work at. But if you just have a different opportunity, it's like, I can't not say no to this type of thing. Like, we're seeing it in college basketball now with Sean Miller, the way he left Xavier and how the Xavier fans went kind of crazy about that yesterday. It's like, he's going to Texas, bro. Like, can you...
Xavier to Texas.
What are we talking about?
Yeah. Also, I never said that Cam isn't worthy of being a number one pick, which is exactly how I started the whole thing. Shedeur's just going to be better.
Oh, man. It's going to be fascinating, bro.
It will be.
One thing, though. Overtime?
That's all I got. You have anything else you want to talk about?
Kind of. Just one more thing.
We're going to overtime. Head on over to DNVR.com. We're going to wrap up the show there. What do you got?
It's like really not serious at all.
Okay. That makes it even better.
but the word meatloaf came up earlier during the show.
Oh yeah.
And this is no indictment on, the farmhouse's potential meatloaf, but y'all like meatloaf?
Bro, what is wrong with you?
Bro, man, answer my question.
In the right context, yes. I think it's a very, very hit or miss dish.
Yes.
But there's also a place in Westminster called Bender's who does a smoked meatloaf sandwich, and you dip it in gravy. Oh, it's so good. That one and the farmhouse one hit like crazy.
Farmhouse is elite.
Now you just go over to a friend's house and their mom's making meatloaf. I'm gonna have some hesitation about whether or not that's gonna be good.
I just don't think I've ever, mind you, I haven't had meatloaf more than, I don't know, maybe a couple times in my life, but I've never had a good meatloaf. I've never been to some meatloaf and be like, well, okay, that was good.
That's crazy.
It's never happened to me in my life.
We gotta diagnose this, because I guarantee you've never ordered it at a restaurant.
Absolutely not.
Because
I would never spend money on meatloaf.
And that's my point, is you haven't had it prepared properly.
That could be right. But there's something about I don't know. It seems like mash, just mash shit put together. And
Brother, it's like a hamburger just in
it's the
loaf
same
form.
thing as a hamburger.
You with me, Tiff? I don't know. I don't know. I just could never get jiggy. It gives me casserole vibes too, almost, and I don't even think they're really similar. But the dish, it just feels like just a bunch of mashed shit together, and that isn't really just.
You haven't had some
rock
good
on my
casseroles
palate.
ever?
I don't think so, man.
I'm having Steven said RK puts cream cheese on his meatloaf. I absolutely would. That sounds fire.
Crazy.
Carlton really wants to know if we talked about the Giants getting Russell Wilson.
No. Who? We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Carlton.
Oh no, I know who said it. I just didn't know.
You got to have it smoked. I honestly think that's the key. Smoked meatloaf.
That could be it. I don't think I've dabbled in that.
We've done that at home. Made our own. It was delicious.
Okay. So your experiences, that's just your parents nailed it? Your dad?
I mean, my dad is just like a savant on the grill and cooking in general, but yeah.
It's all about who prepared it.
Facts.
I respect it. That's all I had, really. Just wanted to get into that. That's all.
Wayne wants your mic turned off now, bro. Was it worth it?
Wayne, you telling me that you be eating meatloaf, G? Because now I'm looking at you sideways, Wayne. You damn meatloafer. That's disgusting. Now I'm on that with you, Wayne.
I'm just like, you feel that passionately. Right. Not even like you like it. It's
ain't no way you love meatloaf that much. Come on, bro.
Green
There's
chili
like
and meatloaf, sure.
There's a content idea in here. A draft of foods that Scotty hates or something like that. Yeah. I want to hear more of these passionate takes, Scotty.
Okay.
Anti-Gatorade Zero.
Yeah. I mean, I'm there with him, honestly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Chat in the comments. Tell me what the best flavor of Gatorade is.
Yeah.
In the post-show comments.
Post-show comments, yeah. Let's see it.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's what you are. Every time I see you in the chat now, Wayne, you damn meat loafer. Every time, folks. That just officially caught on.
Oh my God.
You let Scotty cook too much. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see y'all then, Go Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.